Alright, so the War Within is not bringing us a full UI overhaul like Dragonflight did, but there are loads of changes and even some new features. As an example, they are fixing up one of World of Warcraft's all-time historical, most persistent annoyances with the in-game camera. That's a change we'll literally feel every time we log in. Yeah, pretty damn exciting. There are loads of other improvements, so let's hop in and start with us, or to be more accurate, our members at Bellular.games. Now, they get early access to our content as well as the Lore Walking podcast. We actually just dropped 2 episodes of that. We got the Hunter and the Evoker, as well as Warcraft Hauntology, diving into what could have been the likes of Tinker, Bard, Necromancer, and the fact that they speedran expansion concepts like Nyloth and Ashitar and the Dream. Of course, there are many more to come, and a library of 38 episodes of that podcast, all diving into the nitty-gritty of Warcraft's lore. So it's hours of binge-worthy content, one of the things that you get at Bellular.games, which is of course the best way to support what we do. A big thank you to all of our supporters there. With that said, let's get into the video. Warband's features then. This is obviously one of the first things you'll notice when the pre-patch drops. So we've got a new character selection UI. The most obvious thing is the Warband favorite characters. Basically, they get their own special little cozy place where you can place them around a campfire. A neat feature though is that campfire scene is actually pulling together your favorite characters across your entire account. Now your regular per realm character list is then below that. The thing that's cool though is if you regularly play characters on multiple different realms, as long as they're marked as favorites, you can log into those characters and go between them without having to hop realms, which basically just saves you a few clicks. And there's another easy to miss thing as well, the new tooltips. If you hover over your characters, you can see more info like professions, Mythic Plus score, and even their current spec. And that's really good, of course, if you've got a whole realm full of crafters. It just kind of means if you're not sure, you're not going to log into the wrong character. Next up then, the Spellbook. It's basically been rebuilt and it's now moved over to the talent and spec UI window. It has new functionality and refreshed art. The first thing is it inherits the excellent search functionality they first put into the talent trees. So if you do a search, right, it'll return exact spell matches, but also spell description matches, and it will also link to related spells, which is awesome because let's just say you search for an active ability, well, it will also highlight passive abilities that will impact that active ability, which is really, really good to help players understand their class. Also, if you click in the search bar, it reveals a terrific option, which is to highlight spells that are not already on your hotbar, and there's also a toggle to hide passives. So that stuff's real good, but overall it's not perfect. Many people think, and I do agree, that it's just a little bit too big. First up, it is part of the double wide talent and spec window, so it does sort of have to match the size of that window in its default view, but I just think that there's too much blank space in it, almost to the stage where my eye's a bit uncomfortable. But of course, UI can be a nightmare, especially when this has got to work for every class and every spec with spell names that can vary massively. So I understand that, but a more compact spacing setting would be lovely. Now, there is a single page version of this that shows if you open up another window, so you can look at that. Basically, it's the same and has the same issues. It feels too spaced out, and they can play a little bit strange depending on your scaling settings, to the point where it could kind of like occlude action bar placement. So overall, it is an improvement, but there's a few areas that could be refined. Next then, we've got Quest UX. A lot of effort has been put into world navigation visuals. Many of the quest icons have been changed to be more visually distinct from one another in both color and shape. Now that's good because it aids recognizability, especially from an accessibility point of view. Not everyone can see every color, of course. It's also really good from a gameplay perspective. As an example, campaign quests and quests that introduce a new gameplay feature, those are now distinct, so you know they're important. Then, building upon the shield quest icon that signifies if a quest is part of the main story campaign, we've actually got new variations. There's a purple triangle for quests that are deemed important but not like strictly required. Things like, say, a Heritage Armor quest line, as well as updates to lots of different types of repeatable quests. So, daily and infinitely repeatable quests have got a new blue exclamation mark with rotating arrows, then weeklies are surrounded by a cogwheel. So it's quite similar to what we had before, but it is just more visually distinct. And then finally, in progress quests are denoted by a 3-dot icon. The old grayed out question mark worked great for most of us, but if, as an example, you're colorblind and you can't really tell the difference visually, then that's a pain in the ass. So the 3 dots work better for more people. Next up, by far my favorite change. This is awesome. It's changes to the in-game camera. So are you fed up of all of those like jarring camera collisions of minor objects placed in the world whenever you're walking through a cluttered space? Maybe a place with loads of trees and lamps, and it just kind of has your camera, zoom in and then zoom out real quick. That's been a long annoyance for me in World of Warcraft, and you can now turn it off. Now, there are some limitations like, solid walls, the ground and buildings, but with most objects, you can make it so that they won't send your camera just going all over the place. And this segues into another change, which is character silhouette visibility. There's a new self-highlight option that has been added to basically make it more easy to see your character when obstructed, and it feels great. Now, this has got a few options. There's the simple silhouette, but then there's also things that basically are an expansion of some existing options. You can put a circle, an outline, or an icon on your character. Most of these, of course, are self-explanatory, but circle adds a permanent target reticle under your character's feet. Outline adds a glow effect around your character model, and then icon puts an icon above your character's head, which basically means if you're in one of those crowded situations and you kind of find it hard to visually tell between things, it'll be way easier, it'll be more clear. So if you've got vision struggles, maybe if you sat in your glasses, which I've done before, and you can't use them, this kind of thing is actually really nice. I mean, especially when you have a trillion spell effects flying off everywhere. So, GG Blizzard, and hey, even if my raid leader shouts at me, with one of those settings, I can still have a star over my character's head and feel good about myself. Okay, next, let's talk about the map. Let's talk about tracking. Version 1 of the map pins and super tracking was okay, but now it's far better. So first off, you'll be able to pretty much super track any point of interest on the map. That ranges from city hubs, flight masters, to dungeon and raid entrances, skywriting races, pet battles, uncollected quests, and even treasures and rares. So that's handy for world navigation. Next up then, there are more filtering options for the map. These let you toggle things, right? Like skywriting race locations, warband completed quests as well, and that's my favorite one. It basically cleans up that problem when you go into an alt and you basically just see quest icon vomit. So that's awesome. Then also several map icons have got a facelift, so we've got dungeon and raid entrances, which are a bit different, city hubs and flight paths as well. Now, all that being said, one thing that could go a long way, Blizz, is the ability to place down multiple pins at once. You can actually do that right now with an add-on. It's called Map Pin Enhance. So if you want multiple pins, you can just get that add-on, but Blizzard, it would be pretty nice just to have for base functionality. Maybe you could have like a pins category in the objective tracker, and I imagine there's all sorts of creative ways people could use that out in the world. Next, a quick one that most people know about, it's the Arachnophobia mode. Basically, this expansion has got loads of spiders and spider-like things. If you don't like spiders, the good news is you can toggle this on, and all of the spiders will be replaced with crabs. It's pretty much simple as that, and it's backward compatible to all Warcraft content as well. Next then, a brilliant feature for raiders, and that is that the raid control panel has got a visual update. It brings it a bit more in line with the rest of the revamped UI. Along with this, it looks nicer, there are a few new controls, and other controls are easier to access. What we see here is where we used to have a random assortment of buttons, we now have got a well-structured panel. Good for group administration, and I mean, look at the before and after shots. It's pretty crazy. Definitely took them a long time to do this, but anyway, it's far better laid out, and there are some nice usability improvements as well. The old UI did have unit markers, but if you wanted to do world markers, you had to open a separate drop-down menu and click in an option, which was not very intuitive or practical, and I think that meant most people used add-ons like Opie or maybe a macro. So that's better. There's also now more granular control over who can place pings. Previously, there was only a binary toggle between everybody or solely the leader, but now you'll be able to additionally limit that to assists or tanks and healers, which is real good. Another great addition as well to this panel is the difficulty selector, which of course for the longest time was only available via right-clicking the menu in your player frame. I suppose it does make sense that it's sitting there on your raid little control panel thingy. Anyway, next, let's talk about skywriting. So, skywriting is the new name for dragon riding. Of course, it is for every single mount. It's an evergreen feature, and now the talent window has been incorporated into the mount journal instead of it being a mini-map button, which obviously makes a lot of sense. You can also switch, by the way, your flight style between skywriting and steady from there. So you'll be able to use both. That being said, do be aware that regular old flying, that is actually going to be locked behind Pathfinder in the War Within. Next then, a bunch of minor changes that at first glance don't make a massive difference, but honestly, when you kind of add them all up, it does mean that the UI just feels way more modern. So if you just take a look at the side-by-side of these like drop-downs and various different UI elements, you can really see how dated they used to be compared to what we've got now. Blizzard have also added a handy drop-down to the appearances window that will let you swap between seeing transmogs for each class, so that's actually really nice. This of course complements real well with warbands because now you're going to be able to collect appearances for all classes and armor types, so it's very good that the transmog window now properly supports that. All of this being said though, there are a few things that are still missing, so let's talk about those. I'll kick it off with the mouse cursors because there's a whole load of crusty old ones that need to be updated to the HD standard that we saw a select few be upgraded to in Dragonflight. Now, I'll try to rattle them all off in one breath, so here goes. We have Attack Sword, Repair NPC, Speech Bubble, Flight Master, Innkeeper, Hearthstone, Quest Pickup, Crafting Order, Scroll, City Guard, Directions, Fishing Hook, Mine Node, Herb Node, Skin, Mob, Pet, Battle, Magnifying Glass. Okay, I did it one breath. Basically, all those cursors could and should be updated, and it would look nice. The next thing then is something that you can do right now, but Blizzard really should consider doing themselves, and that is an updating of all spell ability and item icons. So this has been done by third parties. A great example of this is the Clean Icons pack. It's a really big upgrade. You can actually install it into your WoW client today. It will just make it look far nicer. The problem, right, is that a lot of WoW's icons are dated. Some of them are pretty low res. Also, you have a lot of very inconsistent border styles. It's just not cohesive. It's also not like Blizz are new to this kind of thing. Just take a look at Cataclysm Classic's feature of HD upscaled textures, which, to be honest, look way better than I thought they would be. Next then, Windows. So, Dragonflight updated, of course, Talents and Professions, War Within has done the Spellbook, but loads of others are old and crusty. So, if you're working in WoW, and for some absolutely ungodly reason, you want to throw a to-do list at your producer, just screenshot this feedback list, and I'm sure your producer will be very happy that you've done so. Obviously not burning issues, but nice things to do. The next and largest targets would be updating nameplates, overhauling the personal resource display to reduce the need for spec-specific weak ores, and then improving the game's buff, debuff, and important cooldown tracking as a part of the base UI. Big picture then, WoW's default UIs came on a great deal. There are lots of nice little tweaks here, but the camera changes are my real personal highlight. Those are just going to make every play session a smidge smoother. So, GG to the team. If you want to check out another video, why don't you check out this one on just why Mists of Pandaria's story was awesome. If you don't know what happened in MoP, that is the video for you. But if you're interested in classes, game features, and UI stuff, stay tuned. We'll have a lot of videos you'll enjoy over the next 7 days. Thanks, I'll see you over there.